Hello, I'm Will. I'm a biologist, and I experiment for a living, often in very professional contexts, but I don't want to be professional all of the time. So here, I present to you an unprofessional experiment. Today, we're going to be looking at the stats of Pokémon, specifically the stats of a booster box for the Japanese version of the Scarlet base set. So I collect Pokemon cards because I really like the artwork, and I found that building a collection of something has given me quite a sense of well-being. It's something new as an adult I'm learning about myself. But there are many people who don't collect things in general and don't collect Pokemon cards. I'll explain as best I can what collecting is all about when it comes to Pokemon cards. So let's talk about generations. Pokemon are grouped by generations. New generations coincide with the release of a new Pokemon game, and these Pokemon are associated with a region in the Pokemon world. So in the beginning, there was the Kanto region. It included the first generation of Pokemon ever, which was comprised of 151 in total. And this generation is really iconic. It included people's favorites like Bulbasaur, Squirtle, Charmander, Gengar, Pikachu, and of my personal favorite, Gyarados. So every time a new generation is added, the roster of Pokemon is expanded. The latest generation is Generation 9. They come from the Paldea region. These Pokemon appear in the latest games, Scarlet and Violet, and also Legend ZA. The next generation will be Generation 10 in the upcoming Winds and Waves Pokemon game. I'm quite interested by this new game. I'm very intrigued by the setting, winds and waves. It looks more like an island, kind of oceanic Pokemon game. And the starters I'm all really fond of. I think I'm personally going to go Brout. I love the little angry bird. So we've talked about generations. Let's now go on to the trading card game and what's known as expansions. So alongside the TV series and the video games, there is the trading card game, or TCG for short. Some people collect cards to build decks and actually play the trading card game. For the purposes of this video, I'll be focusing purely on the TCG from a collector's perspective. So the card game has been a thing since 1996, with the first set of cards being released a month before the original TCG. Since then, there have been over 75 billion, yes, billion with a B, Pokemon cards produced across 16 languages in over 90 countries. Usually, a TCG series is released in line with the video games, and throughout the life cycle of the games, there will be expansions. For example, for the current generation, there was the Scarlet and Violet series, with the base set being released in March 2023, after the video games' November 2022 release. It might seem confusing, but the cards that come out during a game's generation are called series. So we are currently in the Scarlet and Violet series of the TCG. The Winds and Waves series will be the next, and the Sword and Shield series came before. And throughout the series, there have been expansions to the original base set Scarlet and Violet. So now there are expansions like Scarlet and Violet's Stellar Crown, or Scarlet and Violet's Paradox Rift. Each expansion adds new cards to the TCG. From a gameplay perspective, this usually adds new mechanics and shifts the meta of the actual game, but from a collector's perspective, it adds alternate art for the cards. Some of these artworks are highly sought after, going from hundreds of dollars to thousands of dollars. They are incredibly beautiful, and there are artists who design these artworks, and they have distinctive styles that some people sought after. Some people have collections of just particular artists, or of particular Pokemon that are done in different art styles. So to expand on this and talk more about the cards, there are numerous card types in Pokemon. To understand why people collect the cards, we need to go through the different types of cards out there, starting with how things are in the English version of the TCG. Then I'll move on to the Japanese version. So to start, I'll be going off of CGC Cards' comprehensive breakdown of card types for the TCG, quite the tongue twister. I highly recommend you check it out if you're curious about this stuff. This, along with all the resources that I've used during the making of this video, will be down in the description below for you to look at. So there are 4 main types of card: common, uncommon, rare, and promotional cards. I've given examples here of cards from my personal collection, but things get even more complicated thanks to Scarlet and Violet. So in the Scarlet and Violet series of the TCG, we now have more rarities such as double rare, ultra rare, illustration rare, special illustration rare, and hyper rare. Again, all the images you're seeing are from my personal collection. The hyper rare I've shown there is my Garchomp BX, which also happens to be what is known as a secret rare. These are the hardest cards to pull in a set, and they stand out for having a card number which is larger than the actual set number on the card. You can see it here. The design is always different from the non-secret rare version of the card in the set. So an example of this would be the Gyarados EX card, which is actually in the set we're opening up today. You can see it here. I won't go into the many other card types that exist in the set, but if you're interested, please do read the guides in the description. Let's talk about the Japanese style now. So today we're opening up a Japanese version of the set, and Japanese cards are different to their English counterparts. The biggest differences are obviously the cards have Japanese writing on them, and the Japanese cards also have a different design on the back, which is more colourful. In my opinion, the Japanese cards are much nicer. But to make things even more complicated, the Japanese cards have a similar yet different rarity system, and it is the following: common, uncommon, rare, double rare, ace, art rare, super rare, ultra rare, and secret art rare. You might be wondering for yourself, Will, why are you concerned about Japanese cards? They must surely cost more because you don't live in Japan, and it would be more expensive to import these foreign goods. Well, no, they don't. Japanese cards are not valued as highly as their English counterparts. The reasons for this are because there is a much better market for English cards for collectors and players. I'm assuming that this is because more people enjoy Pokemon cards outside of Japan than they do in Japan, by virtue of there being a greater population outside of the country of origin. Also, Japanese booster boxes have fixed odds, which makes their value less than their English counterparts, which don't have fixed odds. The reason for these fixed odds is because Japan has very strict anti-gambling laws, much stricter than other countries. Gambling is prohibited for the most part, but there are exceptions for certain horse tracks and casinos. But as I alluded to before, this disparity in price is not reflected in the card quality, much the opposite. Japanese cards are widely cited by collectors as being of higher quality, and just to show what I mean, I've included a side-by-side comparison of my Floatzel here. You can see that there are some differences in colour. You do have to kind of spy them a bit harder than you used to. Again, being new to collecting, this is something that is allegedly the English sets have been catching up with the Japanese sets. If you do look hard enough though, you can kind of spy those differences between the Japanese and English, namely that the colours are better in the Japanese sets, in my opinion. So finally, let's talk about boosters. There are two types of boosters in principle. A booster pack, which includes 10 cards in the English set, 5 in the Japanese, and there are also booster boxes, which we're opening today. They contain 36 booster packs in the English sets, and 30 packs in each booster box for the Japanese sets. So now that we've covered the basics, let's get into the experiment today. I'm opening a booster box of the Scarlet and Violet series in Japanese. Specifically, I'm opening the Scarlet base set. I'm doing this to test two things. Number one, if the proposed odds of 4 double rares, 3 art rares, and at least 1 super rare per booster box are real and genuine odds. So again, these cards are guaranteed because of Japan's anti-gambling laws. Number 2, if I can try to predict which energy type I will get the most cards off of. And 3, the most important one, I need to masquerade my gambling addiction as science. To do this, I'm going to open up this booster box in its entirety and graph the cards I get for your viewing pleasure. I therefore have two hypotheses. Number 1, that when I open the booster box, I will indeed get 4 double rares, 3 art rares, and at least 1 super rare or better. 2, that I will get more fighting type cards than any other card type. This is because, according to Pokecollector.com, there are 13 unique fighting types in this set, more than any other card type in the set. And to extend this further, I'll also hypothesize that I will see lightning types the least, because there are only 3 unique cards in the set which are lightning types. So now you're painstakingly aware of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So let's do it. Okay, so let's get started with pack number 1. There are some really nice cards in this set. The chase card, the one that everyone wants, is the Gardevoir EX card, which is part of this really nice 3-part scene of all the evolutions of Gardevoir, and Gardevoir's evolving as a family grows and matures as well. It's a really nice set of cards, and I'm looking to see them. But not much out of pack 1. I do really like the Grimer card though. It embodies my existence quite nicely. So pack 2 gives us a nice looking Lucario and a Croagunk. Fido is such a sweet little card, especially compared to the Muck, who looks like Grimace got microwaved. Moving on to pack 4. So pack 4 gives us our first hit, a rather nice looking Corydon EX, who in my opinion was the weaker of Corydon and Miraidon, but nonetheless a hit. On to pack 5, we're 1/6 of the way through and we're yet to see any of our art rares. Left a straggling Cacturn in the pack there. Did get a Wiglet, not the one we want, but it's still nice, and probably one of my favourite Pokemon from this generation. I like it because I think it suggests that there's this kind of possible evolution in Pokemon that's an actual evolution, not like a Pokemon that just gets bigger or gets more heads. It's like this evolved from Diglett, and that's because of like actual scientific evolution, rather than what, you know, your Pokemon gets when it gets to level 25. And moving on to pack 8, we see another Grimer and a really nice Curlier card too. Our second hit is an Unkalone EX, which is really nice. I prefer Lechonk, but I'll take the hit, and there's still no sign of our art rares yet. So again, pack 9. We get a really nice Wugtrio and Magikarp cards. We're now a third of the way through with pack 10, and we've got no sign of our guaranteed art rares yet, which mean they're in the next 20 pack. Oh, speak too soon, we've got one. It's King Gambit. It's a really nice card that includes all 3 evolutions of that Pokemon in what looks like an attacking formation. Not usually what you see in your art rares, but I'll happily take it. 1 down, 2 more art rares, and a super rare, or better yet to come. Olive again, and another Fido there too, as well as a Floatzel, and I am getting really interested as to what the graphs are going to look like for this pack opening. On with 12 here, we get Sandile, Skiddo, Varoom, Torkoal, and another Cacturn. Big fan of the Cacturn. Let it be known I am not a fucking fan of Varoom. I think it's cool when Pokemon and humans interact, but being an engine is not it. Plus, some of those Team Star base raids sucked when you had to beat the Ravorooms. I think it was the Poison one. I genuinely nearly threw the fucking switch across the room. 15, we're at the halfway point now, 15 with 15 more to go. We get 2 evolutions of the same Pokemon, a Drifbloom and a Drifblim, a weird balloon-like Pokemon which does not garner much love from me. On to pack 16, we get another Smoliv and a Magikarp getting offered up to us. We also get the super rare Gardevoir EX, not quite the chase card that we wanted, not the version of the Gardevoir that we wanted, but a wonderful card indeed. I love the finish on it, the way that pops against the cool background, a really nice card, and I'm quite happy with that. It's going to go in my personal collection binder, and it's our super rare of the box. We could get another one, but we're unlikely to. So pack 17 shows us a Lechonk, a Riolu, and a Sviper, Sandaconda, and Penny. I didn't really like Penny. She got on my nerves a bit. She always came across like this kind of shy bozo. She did have some cool clothes. I remember she had that Eevee backpack. And at least it isn't like Arden, where I just had to heal his dog for the whole game before kicking the ever-living shit out of it again. And he always had some random beef with my Miraidon for feeding it a sandwich. Not a fan. I tell you what, if Pokemon existed and behaved like normal animals, it'd be fucking terrifying, wouldn't it? I'm all here for an Eevee kicking about, barking around the house, but I'd fucking shit my pants if I saw Cacnea out and about. Just look at it. And in pack 22, we get a Ralts, followed up by its evolution in art rare form. We get the Curlier art rare in that house scene. It's a stunning card, and I'm very happy with that. So hopefully we can find the art rare Ralts that comes before it in the same kind of theme. Now this is the kind of Pokemon that you actually want in the house, unlike some. You know, 3 AM, weeknight, sleepless, bowl of cereal will do the trick. House silent, fridge open. Dinga! You've screamed, everyone's up, milk everywhere, pants shat, horrible scenes. On to pack 23, we get a thumb of approval there on the second time of asking when opening that pack, and another Smoliv and a lovely looking Toxicroak EX there. So we are fast approaching the end here on pack 24. I had a blast opening up this box so far, and it keeps on going with a really nice Hawlucha card there, really cool Pokemon. On pack 25, we get a Wiglet, Seviper, Silicobra, and the Gyarados EX double rare. What a fucking cool card that is. Diving out of the card, zoomed in to appreciate this bad boy better, super happy with that pull, and I would love to see the art rare of this card as well as our final one of the box. Pack 26, some more engine-based Pokemon in Pack 26, and my views on those still have not changed. I'm still left wondering if there is context in their existence to be used in cars. 27, nothing to write home here. 3 from home and the Chaser's Put. Yet another Pawnyard in my grasp. 28, we are seeing more and more duplicates, as I kind of expected. The more cards we've got, the more duplicates we're going to see. We've got about 140 cards at this point, with 10 more to go. Our penultimate pack. Can we see something good in here? No, we cannot, besides some lovely cards that are already in my collection. Our final pack and our final art rare of the box. Please, can we see a Gyarados? No, but we do get a really nice looking Riolu running amok in the house there. A really sweet looking card there, getting caught doing something he definitely shouldn't have been. So now that we've opened our packs and collected our data, it's time to visualize our plots and answer the hypotheses that we set out in the opening of this video. So our first hypothesis was that this booster box would give us 3 art rares and at least a super rare or better. To test this, I visualized this data using a histogram. A histogram is a type of graph. All it does is count how many times a type of data occurred. In our instance, the data types are the different rarities, and each rarity is a bar. We have our rarity on the x-axis, that's the bottom line, and we have our frequency on the y-axis, that's the line on the left side of the graph. The numbers above the bars are the frequency at which the cards of those rarities occurred. In simple English, that just means how many times we got a card of each rarity. We have the rarities appearing in descending order, that's to say as we go from left to right, the cards are becoming less rare, and we can also see that as we go left to right, our bars are getting taller, and based on our bar heights, we can see that our hypothesis is correct. We got 1 super rare, 3 art rares, 4 double rares, 7 rares, 46 uncommon cards, and 89 common cards. And as you might think, we got more cards the lower the rarity gets. This might seem like an obvious point to make, but we still actually need to test this in order to say it's true. And given the fact that this is a non-specialist subject, I feel qualified to ask and answer this question robustly. Let's move on to our predictions about card type. Our second hypothesis was based on the amount of each type of Pokemon in the set. More specifically, I hypothesized that because there were fewer lightning type cards than any other cards in the set, we would open less of those cards than any other type. I also predicted that we would see more fighting type Pokemon than any other cards because this type has the most unique cards in the set. And I visualized this data using another histogram so that we can see if my hypothesis is true or not. Similar to the other plot I've shown, we have our data types on the x-axis. Again, that's the bottom line of the graph. And in this instance, this is our type of Pokemon. On our y-axis, again, that's the left line on the graph, we see the frequency at which we pulled those cards. The taller these bars means the more that these types of Pokemon appeared in the video. And from this we see that my second hypothesis was completely wrong. We saw 4 fire types, 6 metal and lightning types, 14 colorless types, 15 grass types, 18 darkness types, 20 water types, 25 fighting types, and 27 psychic types. Whilst my hypothesis is wrong, it does actually make sense that we saw fire and psychic types in the lowest and highest pulled bars respectively. This is because there is only one unique card difference between these types and the lightning and fighting types in the set, meaning they're the second least and most abundant cards in the whole set, so it makes sense that out of any of the other types, we saw these 2 types in the highest and lowest spots as opposed to any others. So, whilst we didn't get it on the mark, we weren't far off either. Let's talk about other miscellaneous stats. So, of the 108 unique cards in this set, I collected 75 of them, meaning if I wanted to make a master set, a set with every unique card, I would need another 33 unique cards. We saw 3 Pokemon more than any of the others, and they were Wattrel, Lechonk, and Varoom. All 3 of these cards had alternate versions, which explains why we saw them the most. So, accounting for this, the cards that we saw the most of the individual cards were Sandile, Nadine, and Pawnyard. Finally, I wanted to take a brief look at the distribution of cards in each pack, mainly to see if there was any distinct pattern. So I made yet another histogram or rather, lots of little histograms. Don't panic here, it's the same song and dance for the axes as the other plots, and the bars get taller when there are more cards pulled of that type, but only each little graph has a number above it. This corresponds to the individual pack number, so each little plot is a unique pack, and there doesn't really seem to be any distinct patterns, but I thought it would be cool just to see, in case there was, but there isn't. So before I wrap up this one, I want to discuss the strengths and weaknesses of this little experiment that we've done. So firstly, this data validates the widely reported pull rates for the current gen of Japanese booster boxes. There are some caveats to this. Firstly, our sample sizes are really low, particularly quite low when we want to answer this hypothesis. And this might be counterintuitive to you because there are 150 unique data points being Pokemon cards in this instance. And we observed the expected pull rates, but how do we know that the next box will be the same, or the one after that? We might have just gotten lucky on the pull rates this time and got the ones that we anticipated to see. So if I was to truly test this, I need to repeat what I've just done, ideally as many times as I can afford, but realistically a minimum of 29 more times. 30 is usually the replicate number we aim for in the ideal world, but in this instance, we can validate our findings using existing resources like the internet, and we trust that the Pokemon brand does operate within the legal boundaries of Japan, and it maintains a high regulatory standard in their products. But note, in science, we don't just rely on the internet, we rely on doing things ourselves and contextualizing our findings in peer-reviewed literature, i.e. looking at what other people are doing and seeing how it fits in with our findings, how it differs, how it's similar, and we make a judgment based on consensus. Some of these points also do apply to my second hypothesis too. We very well could have gotten different distributions of Pokemon types if we opened up another box. This is almost guaranteed because I am almost certain that the Pokemon types that go into each pack are random. So we definitely cannot say that my data is A, enough to answer my second hypothesis, and B, that the odds would be the same if we opened up another 10 booster boxes. What I would do, if I had a blank check and an empty calendar, is open up 29 more boxes and take an average of all of them to get a better approximation of the actual odds of what you'd pull in this booster box. But all in all, this was still a lot of fun. I had a great time opening up this set, and my favourite card was the Gyarados EX. And I've actually pulled the other versions since, and I also really enjoyed visualizing Pokemon pull rates in graphs. It's something that I'm planning on doing again. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I've given you some perspective on how we scientists make up experiments to test hypotheses. You know, this is a very silly and kind of benign example of an experiment, but the bones are still the same. We're contextualizing the research, identifying facts or problems. In this case, it's, the fact that Pokemon pull rates are fixed in Japan. How can we test that? Or I have a question about card types that we're going to pull. How can we test that? And then we learn about the subject, we learn what the pull rates are, we learn how many different types of Pokemon are in a set. We design an experiment to test this, i.e. opening up a Pokemon card pack set. I then do some visualization of the data. I don't really have enough to do stats, but maybe one day I will. And then we talk about the results in a discussion, and we talk about the strengths of the study and also the weaknesses of the study, and we talk about what we do again if we had the chance. So thank you very much for joining me on a useless experiment. I've been Will, and these were some useless figures.